What's up?
Hey, we're back.
We are back. What's going on, man?
Not much, just beginning of November already. It's crazy to think about, right?
That's wild. That is wild. There's a lot going on between now and the end of the year. That is for sure.
Yeah.
We got a time change coming up.
We do.
Which I'm not a big fan of, but that's to each their own, I guess, right?
That's right. It's just already looking forward to the next time change.
Yes, exactly. The countdown till what? April.
Till spring, yeah. March, April. Yeah.
March, yeah, whatever. So anyway, we are here. You see it. We're in the penthouse. Hunter's here. We're ready for live. We're gonna do marbling.
Yeah.
Now we're gonna walk you through, right?
Right. So we're gonna do a quick. If you guys have been longtime viewers or watched over the past few years, we've done marbling several times before.
Okay.
We're gonna do a very basic intro to marbling, and then we're also gonna step it up a notch to the next level, I guess you could say.
Yeah, we're gonna show a few different things.
Yeah, you got some ideas that you've worked on recently, and we're gonna kind of implement those together and show you guys a few advanced marbling techniques.
Sure. We've talked about this before on the show. We try to do a few things that not only teach, but we also do things that might get your brain working at the house going, oh, well, I see how he did that. I don't really like that, but I'm going to do what he did and then use maybe that technique to do this, or that gives me an idea to adjust something else. So I think that's part of it too. We're not up here proclaiming to be the best by any stretch at all, but if we can teach you guys a little something, or maybe get that brain turning at the house. You guys are in your workshop and you're like, oh, I'm going to do that now. I think that's what we're going to do. So, as Hunter was saying, how to get started, types of marbling, the products you're going to need. We're going to help you make it easy, so you just don't dive in and you get pigment in your hair and stuff on the ground and all. We're going to try to walk you through a little bit of that. We're going to talk about the different types of pigments, because we've got your liquid type. We've got some glitter you can put in there, and of course we've got the powder that are metallic. They kind of add a little pop. And we're going to show you a few different things, some things we've been tinkering with. I messed up one or two things on purpose, so I can kind of show you like, hey, if you do that, that's going to cause this problem. And then just some different things like that. So we've got some giveaways, of course. We got your card cleared. We're going to do a starter marbling kit, a pro one. We're going to give away a Color Series rod kit tonight, things like that.
Yep.
So what do you say?
I'm ready.
Is that about it?
Let's do it.
All right, guys, what do you think? Everybody ready? Jay, let's hit it for marbling.
There is nothing wrong with your television set. Do not attempt to adjust the picture. We are controlling transmission.
All right, there it is, the intro. Episode 81.
81. Nice.
I'm telling you, I'm over here mixing a little Pro Coat, getting ready. Got the high build on the table. We got a few things though.
As always, we got some housekeeping to do, right? So if you guys are not familiar, the Mud Hole Live Rod Builders Workshop, we talk about this every show, but for a reason, right? It's the largest group on any social media platform, right?
Oh yeah, by far.
17,000 plus members now. So if you guys have not checked that out on Facebook, it's facebook.com/groups/Rod Builders Workshop. And then also something fairly new that we've had, past couple months here. All the products that we're going to show on tonight's show are actually going to be cataloged with timestamps on the website. at mudhole.com/MHL. So you guys can watch the episode, and as we go, you can, or not live obviously, but you know, when you watch back later on, they're timestamped, the products are in there, links directly to the website.
Yep.
Makes it super easy. And final but not least, we've got a little something at the end of the show.
Yep.
You guys make sure you stick around, and we're gonna have a little announcement. Might be geared toward the holiday season.
I was gonna say,
Possibly.
I feel like we're getting close to a big something.
Yeah.
You know, kind of sneaking up on us here. Kind of, you might wanna pay attention, because you know we love the followers, we love the viewers, and we always try to make sure to give y'all a sneak peek before we tell the rest of the world.
Right.
So that's probably something you ought to hang tight for.
Yeah. But we'll save that for the end of the show. We can't give it away just yet, but stick around, and we'll definitely announce that. So let's just jump right in.
Yeah.
So let's do a little marbling 101 just to refresh everyone.
Quick little
If you guys
refresh.
haven't ever marbled before, it's a really fun, decorative technique that can kind of spice up your rod a little bit.
Well,
Add some colors.
Yeah.
And you can get creative with it too. You know, for instance, we'll actually let's show a couple of these.
let's show some of
Let's
these.
dive into the advanced, right? So
Where you can go, right?
this is what you can do, especially if you're very artistic, right? All three of these variations, the pink, green, and the one in my right hand, kind of a tan white color. Underneath this is dragon scale. And then on top is going to be the marbled pigments that are mixed in with the epoxy. So this is a very advanced version, but this can kind of show you where marbling can lead to.
Yeah.
And of course, as you guys will see in a minute, you can get, you can kind of go crazy with the designs. It can be a flame pattern. It can be just an abstract, whatever you want to do with the paint kind of version. Like, you can kind of make whatever you want.
For sure.
But these are the more advanced. We'll go ahead and get that out of the way, and then we'll show a little bit of the more basic versions, right?
Well, you know, I would venture to say we had this conversation, and keep in mind, what Hunter just showed you, we've got to give a shout out to the creator of that. Jimmy, I don't want to butcher your last name, okay? And you know who you are, and we appreciate it. And our very own Kurt Baker brought these in. We've got twice as many of those to show off. But one of the friends of the team, Jimmy, is a very talented marbling artist. At that point, I think it's pretty fair to say that.
Yeah.
So it's great because everybody can work their way to there with a little imagination, a little bit of know-how. You can work yourself up just like with any of the other rod building stuff. Get you some 101 down, start to learn how to work with this stuff, and then just go wild.
Yeah.
And that's the best part is, you know, you can practice on all kinds of scrap pieces and different things like that to kind of get a feel for it. Because there is a little bit, you know, there's a little bit of stuff that you just kind of got to get a feel for. How much pigment to put in, how much, you know, you can work with it. Different things like that, that's something that you'll learn from doing it. So I got you some finish here mixed up, and I got you the high build.
Appreciate that.
Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so high
We'll do like your opinion, my opinion. How
Yeah,
about
I
that?
mean, definitely high build is what, you know, I would go with if you guys are going to be marbling. You'll see, it's not really the application per se. It's more so when it's, you know, say for instance you lay down your base layer, which we'll get to in a minute, and then you go in and start trying to add a couple colors together, and then you want to go in and kind of thin that out a little bit and let the epoxy do the work and level itself out.
Okay.
If you're using a lower build or a medium build, the tendency of that finish is to run, right? It kind of wants to, especially when you flame it,
Right.
it wants to kind of run, and it wants to almost incorporate those colors more than you would like them to.
Right.
With the high build, you have that similar reaction, but with high build, it's less tendency to bunch those colors together and kind of make them run together, right?
Sure. Right.
So that's why I personally would use high build.
Yeah.
You got anything for that?
You know, that's exactly why I would do it. And honestly, that's why I do it, because the working time with the high build, for those that have used it, is shorter. And I like that aspect of it because it moves along quicker when you want to go from, okay, I'm gonna add a couple, there's your finish.
Thank you, thank you.
I'm gonna add a couple colors to this, and I'm gonna move this, and I'm gonna do that, and then I'm gonna drag it. It doesn't want to just smear and run away from you nearly as quickly, because it sets up quicker, and then you can work with it when it's not, you know, fresh, hot epoxy, and it doesn't just want to go everywhere, you know.
Right.
And you can even wait a little bit longer, you know, and really be very pinpoint with it. And we'll even show you a trick later. It's one of those deals where we're going to add a little something to the epoxy that's going to make it kind of weird.
Yeah.
Which is pretty cool, honestly.
All right, so what I'm going to start with is first of all, let's talk about this base layer. So this is not a requirement per se, but depending on the color of your blank, you might want to either add a base layer of white, which is what we have here on this white blank, or you can also do a base layer of black, which you guys can see right here on this edge right here. And to get these base layers, you can actually just use the same pigments we're about to use and simply just add a layer of finish that is pigmented with either white or black, whatever color you want.
Yep.
And basically you will apply that base layer, let it set, let it cure, and then come back, and you want to kind of, then you're going to be laying in your first layer of marbling, which is technically your second layer of epoxy.
Yeah.
Right? So now let's get started with, so we have our finish, right?
Yep.
We have our pigments, which we talked about a little bit earlier. So the CRB marbling pigments, these are actually going to be a liquid version.
Okay.
Right? We also have in the small jars here, this is the PMRB, part number on that one. This is the powder marbling pigment. So two different variations. And as you said earlier, the powder is actually a metallic, right?
Yep.
So it's got a little more sparkle, a little more glitter added to it, right? A little more pop. The liquid version is kind of more of a more flat color. Doesn't have much pop or sparkle to it. It's just a, you know, blue is blue. It's not a metallic blue or anything like that. So
Okay.
two variations there. We also have our glitter, you know, set out here. So you could add glitter if you wanted to with this. I'd get a little cautious adding it already to the metallic pigments. You kind of want to shy away from that. But, you know, if you wanted to come into the liquid pigments and add a little bit of glitter in there, you could do that.
Yeah.
But use it sparingly. Glitter goes a long way with just a small amount.
And it goes everywhere.
Yeah.
Which is a good plug for using the little spatula set when you scoop that out, because it's gonna go everywhere.
All right, so I'm gonna get my little station set up over here. I'm gonna be working on the white section. So I've got my epoxy ready to go. I'm gonna be working with this this palette, I guess you could call it.
Yep.
Right? It's a pigment palette.
Yep.
Marbling palette, which is going to have, you know, it's got little sections for 7 colors.
Okay.
And then plus a main portion if you wanted to, you know, dump your epoxy in there, you could. I just like to keep it in the cup, you know, just to have it there. So
this is Rod building with Bob Ross.
Exactly, yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, paint by number almost, right?
There you go.
So let's get some of the pigments in here first.
Here, go ahead and get you.
Yes, sorry.
Is that good there?
I'm a little confined, but we'll make it work.
All right.
You guys can see that. We'll switch over in a second.
Because I think this is a good part. I want them to be able to see how much of this are you going to use. Because this is one of those like, oh, I didn't think I needed that little. You know, I thought I was going to have to use like a tablespoon, you know, which in theory, you don't have to.
Right. So when you're using this, all you need to do, let's see, make sure you guys can see that, is so I have here the little plastic mixing sticks that you'll get with like, you know, if you guys have ever ordered like an M10 before, which is the 10-piece cups and sticks. This is one of those. And I'm just going to add a small amount in here, just a little bit like that. Doesn't take much. So that's my blue. I'm gonna grab a couple more sticks. I'm gonna do blue, red, and black. So I think those three colors will show off pretty well on the white base. How's the camera? Good?
It's on you. It's great. I'm just going to slide some of this stuff out the way.
Those out of the way. And lastly, black.
You know, I think having the pigmented colors, or I'm sorry, the marbling pigments that you're using now are such a great complement to the powder stuff. Just because you can use them to lay down, you know, a base. Even if you're not going to necessarily use black in the design, you can take it and completely, you know, even if you have a rod blank that's a very specific color, you can just create a very nice solid white or black background or something like that, you know, to move forward with.
Great. Okay, so, and I got a little bit too much black in this one. It kind of got away from me there a little bit, but all good though. That will definitely work. Now, if you guys are using the powder pigments, which I'm not going to in this demo, but I'm going to show you how much you need if you were to use the powder. And so let's open up the jar.
And you know, I'd venture to say, you mentioned about like you had a little too much pigment in there. I have purposely gone overboard in putting the pigment in there, and I haven't noticed an ill effect in my epoxy curing.
No.
I mean, I probably, you know, let's be honest, I wouldn't do maybe like a 50-50 mixture, you know, like 1 full cc of that, or, you know, half and half type deal. But that, I still haven't noticed like a problem with it curing or getting weird or anything like that. It seems like you can, it seems like that pigment and even the powder pigments are pretty forgiving. Like, I wouldn't worry about it if, like, oops, I put a little too much in there.
Yeah.
Just for those that are watching.
And for the powder, I would say probably about, that might be even too much. Like, that's all you need.
Sure.
And this is one of the spatula, out of the spatula kit. This is one of those. And you guys can see, I mean, it is a very, very small amount that you'll need.
Sure.
Don't need much at all. So one of these jars, I think they're 3 grams, very small amount of powder, will go a long, long way.
Oh my gosh, yeah, I don't think in my 7 years I've ever been through a whole one, you know?
Yeah. All right, so let's get some of this epoxy into the palette.
Yep.
Let's see, actually I'm just gonna use a
Those are
spatula.
I just wiped those too, so
Okay,
in case
let's do
you
that.
wanted to.
Yeah. So let's go in with a little bit here.
And again, this isn't an exact, you know, measurement.
Yeah, as you mentioned, the good thing about the pigments, whether it is the liquid or the powder, the ratio isn't going to really hurt you either way.
Yeah.
Let's just go ahead and take some of this out.
Well, yeah, because you'll need to put you some, you know, don't use all your epoxy there in the pigments. Have some left over because you're going to put a base coat, right?
Correct. That should be enough. And I can already tell with this high build, it is starting to kick a little bit.
Yeah.
So I need to get moving. All right, got it.
Perfect.
Cool. And we're going to mix these together.
While you're doing that, I'm going to hit Gary's question here.
Sure.
What is better, liquid or powder pigment? Gary, they really do different things because the powder has a much broader range of colors, and then of course they're metallic. So they really do two totally different things. You get two different looks out of it, but you use them the same way. You can intermix them, use them in the same epoxy. You can do all different kinds of things. So I've even seen people add some powder to, let's say Hunter's got blue and red and black there. You could add a little bit of the black metallic pigment in there, or you can add a different blue metallic into the blue, or you can kind of just play mad rod building scientist, honestly, if you want to get with some of that. So there's really not one that's better or worse. I would venture to say you need all of them, honestly. So, all right.
Okay.
You got that rod blank? Yep. Perfect.
And let's cut it.
Yep.
Perfect.
Awesome. And I got you some heat too here if you need it at any point. Just want to make sure. Can't find the cap to that thing. But we're good.
All right. Make sure this is kind of cleaned up a little bit. How are we looking? Looking good there? Yep. Perfect. Cool. So now this is actually
pearl thread.
Pearl thread. I thought it was marbling earlier. It is not. It's pearl thread, which is perfectly acceptable. All we're doing here is kind of creating a base so that, for one, we're obviously using a white blank, so to have a base to kind of contrast the marbling colors is just a good idea.
Sure.
Whether that's a pearl metallic, a black, you can use whatever you want to.
Yeah. Or you can go right to the white blank.
Or you can go right to the white blank, which I know you're going to show that a little bit later on. Yeah. But for now, we're working with this metallic pearl. And I've got some of the pigment on me, so that's
perfect.
Awesome. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually just layer in a base coat of epoxy on top of what we're already working with. And we'll just even that out real quick. And that finish is definitely starting to go, which is not necessarily a bad thing because like we mentioned earlier, you don't really want a very thin epoxy. If you're working with a low build or like a medium build, I would honestly wait maybe 10-15 minutes before you even start trying to apply the marbling.
For sure. It's almost like putting it over a decal, right?
Exactly. It's going to be, for one, it's going to be hot. It's going to be hot finish, which you do not want to really work with. It's just kind of, not that you don't want to work with it, but just it creates a few problems, that you want to avoid. And two, it's just too thin to work with when you're trying to marble. All right, so we'll let that thin out just a little bit. And as it goes, let's get a little heat.
A little heat, here we go.
I'm just going to try to get this as level as I can without doing too much work to it. And then we'll start adding in our pigments. There we go, good deal. So, now when you go to mix these pigments, make sure you save the little stirring sticks that you use, whether you use toothpicks, popsicle sticks, whatever you might use, make sure you keep those because you're actually going to use those. Now you can use them or you can use a thread pick. I mean, anything that's going to let you apply these pigments to the finish. I like using these because they actually, you can almost create like a little droplet on the end of the stick.
Okay.
So that works for me because typically I'm, applying a decent amount of pigment. So we're just going to go in with the blue first. I'm just going to drop that in. And there's no rhyme or reason to adding the pigments. Especially when you're first starting out, just have fun with it. I'm just going to throw in some droplets, whatever you want to call them. Here, there, everywhere. And even the little tags that run are not really a big deal because they're just going to kind of add to the effect once we start kind of manipulating the colors.
This is the tadpole theme with Hunter McKay.
Yeah, there you go. Do some red. Whoa, that one got away from me.
Do some happy little tadpoles.
Yeah. That looks good, why not? And maybe one more.
Well, and two, you know, I like that you chose the pearl metallic because, you know, it's going to have like a subtle contrast, even though that the blank is white and the pearl is white, of course, it's going to have a neat contrast because when you leave room underneath your colors that you're putting in, the metallic from the pearl thread is going to show through.
Right.
So now you're going to have a little bit of an offsetting kind of deal. Obviously, if you were going to completely epoxy the entire section, if you were going to completely fill in the entire epoxy section with pigment, then it doesn't matter what's underneath it, you know, in terms of whether it's metallic thread or black thread or white thread or whatever. But since Hunter's probably going to leave a little in there, you'll be able to see through it. So
now what I'm doing, and if you have a very specific design in mind, you don't probably want to do what I'm currently doing and mixing all the colors together as I go. But I don't really have a design in mind, so you know what? Whatever we end up with is what we got.
yeah.
The cool thing is the more, I missed a pretty good section there. I might have to come back and add some more in. But by just taking the end of, again, you can use a toothpick. I'm using one of the probe tools. You can just kind of get crazy with it.
Getting crazy with Hunter McCamey.
Yeah,
Hang
yeah.
on.
Marbling.
I like
Fun
it.
stuff.
I like it. And of course, it, like you said, there is a certain extent where the colors come together a little bit on this, and it's pretty good, you know, because you've got a blue and a red that are contrasting well. If you had colors that were not, you know, different enough, I guess you could say, or not contrasting enough, you might just, your marbling might turn to mud.
Right.
You know, if you just have 4 different blues, if you're not careful, and you're putting them all together in the same level of epoxy, which we're going to show you how to get around here in a little bit. You know, you might get a little, like I said, might muddy the water some.
Yeah. So I'm gonna add a few more in here, and then I'm gonna try to blend some of this together so it kind of gets away from that white background. You can see there's a very refined technique to doing this.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just smearing paint.
Do you have any drug recommendations to take while you do this?
Anything and everything.
Yeah, right?
Yeah. Whatever you want. There's, you know, no particular drug of choice.
It looks good, though. You know, it's cool because it just kind of comes together as you walk through it. Now, granted, there is a point where you can overwork it, right?
Which I'm getting very close to. So I think I'm going to stop there.
Okay. You're flying too close to the sun, right?
Yep.
Almost.
Got to come back down. So that's kind of, I'm just going to stop there.
Okay.
Now, obviously, that to some probably looks horrible, but I don't care. It's my rod, right?
Yeah.
It looks good to me.
Yeah. You're the host.
Yeah. So that's kind of the gist of marbling, right?
Okay.
You can, obviously, you can use as many colors as you want.
Right.
I would probably not use the black next time. I'd probably use maybe something a little bit different because the black kind of blends it in too much together.
All right.
But, you know, that's one thing that we preach on here often is you gotta practice some of these techniques. Don't do it on your finished product necessarily. You know,
Right out the gate.
Take a piece of scrap blank, play around with some colors, get used to the technique, moving the paint around, moving the colors around.
Sure.
And after you got some practice, then go after it and see what you can do. But hey, not bad for a few minutes on live.
Right.
Yeah, the black kind of takes away from it a little bit, but
I think it's okay.
yeah, whatever. So that's marbling 101. Pretty straightforward, not a very hard technique to do. I would definitely, I personally like working with a base that's down first. I know you're going to show in a little bit of a different technique that doesn't use a base layer at all, and it's super cool. That's just my preference though, especially on a solid black background.
Yeah.
Whether that be all black thread. You can even simply just tint the epoxy with black and then just add a base layer of black.
Yep.
Because that black pigment, you know, it's even even on this white blank. I mean, it does not, the white does not come through at all. So
It's not forgiving.
yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, so a little bit of epoxy, whether you use the liquid pigments or the powder pigments, couple brushes, couple stirring sticks,
Yeah.
toothpicks, whatever you got.
For sure.
Have some fun with it.
Cool. All right. Well, that'll certainly get us started.
Yeah.
Cool.
So let me do some cleanup.
And actually,
Are you want to use this?
leave that red. I want to see if I can use that red real quick.
Okay.
See if I can get away with it. Did you put a little? Is that epoxy in the middle there?
Yeah, it's got some red in
Is it
it.
setting up too much?
It's getting there.
It is getting close, isn't it? Let me see if I can. Let me see if we can go real quick. Should have brought a few more stir sticks, huh?
Have any more? No.
That's not what we need to do. Don't need to drop that. So we had somebody asking about a flame. See if I can do this really quickly. Can you give me a brush, please, sir?
Sure.
All right, cool. So, flame-wise, let's see if I can just, I'm just going to see if I can't just squeak one in right here.
I can move.
No. Is that, I think it was good. I think we're centered. Are we centered? Hang on. That'll probably do it. Sweet. All right. So you can do this a couple different ways. This already has white down. We've established that because the blank's white. So I'm going to see, I think this red's still got some life in it. You know me. I like the...
Mm-hmm.
Get a little... Try to fill that gap. Now remember, a lot of these designs and patterns and things, you will have it butted up to some thread wraps and things like that. So that's the good thing is when you are done on one edge, it's kind of cool because then you can throw a trim band in there and you can cover like one edge. Follow me?
Mm-hmm. Gotcha. You done with this yellow?
Yeah.
I'm gonna close it up.
Yeah, do that before we end up wearing it.
Pro tip right there: if you guys use especially the liquid pigments, don't leave those jars open on the top of your workbench. Make sure you put those lids on as soon as you're done using them.
I like to live dangerously.
It's like we got a lot of questions coming in.
Oh no.
Oh yeah.
People going, he is not doing that correctly.
Let me, mind if I hit a couple of these just real quick?
Yeah, go ahead.
Does, Anthony, does marbling add noticeable weight to the rod? No, not any noticeable weight. If you, you know, Chris is going to show later in the show, if you add, you know, you can add 2 to 3, 4 layers of epoxy to give these a multi, you know, layer or level marbling effect. That would add a little bit, but honestly, noticeable weight, you're not going to be able to tell. Do you prefer the 9 or 18 RPM dryer? Honestly, either is going to work. If anything, I would recommend getting a clutch for the dryer, because that's going to allow you to stop the rod very easily.
Yeah.
And, you know, for instance, when I was applying the drops earlier, you know, it wasn't exactly uniform or perfect or anything, but if you have the clutch, you can stop that rod blank anytime you want. It makes it easier to get very fine details.
Right, of course. All right, so this is, what you have to be careful of is you have to be careful of how fine of a point you want, right? So you can see that will give you a little bit of where it will come up. If you want very sharp edges like that, use a point, okay? Also keep in mind, if you want an effect where you can see, let me see this guy. Right here, you see how it looks like almost a flame where it pops off the fire, okay? That is because I didn't put down a base coat, all right? Because you actually come off of the main paint here, and you bring it through, right? And then you pop it off, and that's how you get that, okay? So of course, and I accidentally left some orange or some yellow in my thing. So if you want that kind of effect, do not have finish on the blank here, okay? So that's kind of how you do that. And I feel bad because, of course, a bunch of people are going to be like, wow, that looks terrible. It's crazy because it does look better in person than it does on this. I wish you guys believed me, honestly. But as you come through, the only issue is, and we're going to show this really quickly, because when you add heat to this, I'm going to show you what happens. We can do this a little bit, but it's actually going to wave it slightly. Did you guys see it move? See how it puts like a hump in it? Is that coming through okay, Jay?
Looks good.
All right. So now what we're going to do is, I try to show this every show. If you do too much flame, you can mess this up. All right, good, because let's go to that camera that Dr. Phil Scott. All right, so you can see when I add heat, it makes the finish want to roll around the blank. So as it makes it roll around the blank, that's how you get this effect in the finish, right? So that's how you can kind of bring a little bit of life to that flame. If you go overboard, what you're going to do is you're going to create, you know, when the finish like drips off the blank, see it start to really warp. And then this is what we were saying about if you really start to fly a little too close to the sun, and you put these, if you put these two colors together and you don't separate them, and you add too much finish, now things get wild. And you start to kind of lose a little bit of fire, and they kind of start to like smudge together a little bit. And see, you lost your lines now. But you have now created somewhat of a fade. So you can lose your lines, but if you want to continue to make this move, and you want to do, you know when we do fade wraps? I'm going to try to give it, bring it back a little bit of a fire look here. And you can see I can drag this off the blank a little bit more now that I've added some heat. And I got a little bit more of a fade here. This is why you test some of these things out, okay? And still we're able to create some like pops and cracks up off of it, all right? And again, if you wanted to get rid of some of that, you bring back in your heat, and it will fade a little bit. Remember, this would not do this if there was epoxy completely covered here. So the reason that these parts are hanging out here is because there's no epoxy on this blank. So that's just one, that's just to add to a different way of doing it by not having an epoxy base. Because we talk about having an epoxy base like all the time.
Yeah.
So that is your sort of, this is kind of how you do your flames. This is what happens as you work through it with more heat, less heat. If you want more of a defined edge, if you want less of a defined edge, things like that. And then of course you can see it starts to warp around the blank again when you add too much heat, and then you get lines that are going this way more so than this way. So it's a little based on what you want. And then of course all that will cure, and you can come back in and put finish over it.
Yep.
So.
Cool. All right, let's do, I know we got a lot of questions. Let's do a giveaway.
Okay.
Then we'll knock out some questions.
Let's do it.
And then we'll get into some multi-level marbling.
Perfect.
All right, let's do a starter marbling kit. And that's going to go to Penny Volcana?
Always getting you. Always getting you.
From Facebook, congratulations, Penny. Great prize there. Cool. Let's do some questions. Let's see, I know there was one, Lisa from YouTube. Once that first layer dries up, can you go back and add more red and blue? So, you can, but obviously with the first layer being dry, you're not going to change that, right? It's going to be set, it's going to be dry, you can't really change or alter that. Now, what Chris is going to show in a little bit is you can add multi-layers or levels of marbling, and then the end result kind of incorporates them all together. Whereas if you were to take, for instance, the one that I did earlier and try to add a layer on top, probably not going to look very good. Unless you went with some maybe light colors and used that first layer as kind of just a dark contrast, right?
Yep.
That would be one way to do it if you wanted to.
Yep. And that, you know, Bill, I meant to get that question. What if you don't like what you did? Yeah, so if that was a complete mess, a little more of a mess than it already is, mine, I can come in and wipe that clean.
Sure.
Hunter could come in and wipe that completely clean. And you do have a pretty good amount of time to do it because you know, his base layer was the white pearl thread that already had cured finish over it. So, I mean, even right now, we could probably come in with some alcohol and wipe it off, and you would be completely okay. This, the same way. The one that I did that was a little more of a flame type deal, I could still come back and just wipe it off. You're not completely dead set into this deal. If you get it and you're like, that wasn't what I wanted, you can get rid of that pretty quick.
Which
honestly.
will happen.
Yeah, oh, it'll happen.
I would definitely hit it with some heat too, maybe a little more than you typically would.
Yeah.
Kind of thin it out, make it a little more.
It'll be easier to
workable.
wipe. Yeah.
Yeah, and then you can come in with some alcohol, isopropyl alcohol or whatever you got, and and take it off. You're going to use some paper towels and whatever to get it off, but it'll come off.
Cool.
Let's do John. Ballpark length of time for base coat to set up before adding additional. For high build, I would say as long as it's, mostly tacky. What do you think? Maybe 6 to 8 hours, if that.
I'm sorry. That was
for your base coat.
Additional.
For your base coat to set up before adding anything on top.
I mean, I've seen it as short as like 4.
4 hours?
But I wouldn't probably, I say that live, but I probably wouldn't put that in writing. Yeah, I mean, 6 probably is going to be closer. As long as you're not like in a basement where it's 42 degrees or something like that.
Yeah.
So, I'm going to show you all something really quick. We'll do another question, but I'm going to move this real quick.
Cool.
Go ahead and shut that off.
Okay.
And then let me just slide this blank. So, in terms of like what I did with the flame deal. There it is.
Saw that coming.
I know. I was like, oh no, that one is not the one I want to touch. Perfect. So this, I think we're in here. This green with the black kind of blobs in it is another example of when you have a set color with black trim bands and you can come in and add black marbling pigment and then drag it over the top of already marbled colors. So it kind of gives you a little bit of like a lava lamp kind of vibe. And again, I added this black and then drug in just clumps of it without finish in the center here. And again, the reason I did that is because I wanted, like this kind of blob dot here to stay that way. Or these kind of, chunks on this side to kind of be that way. So it looked like it was almost like running into it, but like you dipped it. Not when you marble it, it comes together a little too much. So that's just another instance where you can like throw, some colors in there on top of something you already did. And then it'll just kind of work it. Just wanted to show that. Cool. All right. So as Hunter mentioned, we're going to show a couple do's and don'ts and how to work with different levels. Slide this guy in here and then
this way.
Yep, because I'm going to work from. Let's see. Ooh, I hope that's not going to be too close to the.
Maybe.
This has got to go on the outside.
Okay.
All right. We try to make sure that because I think the document camera does good for y'all at home, I believe, right?
Hopefully that catches it. No, we got just the edge.
Yeah. Hang on, let's stand by. I think we can get that in just a little bit closer. Let me maneuver the wire here. Stand by, stand by.
Let's see, what do we got? Do or can you keep putting epoxy over the top after it dries to give it a more finished look? Or even add another marbling over the top to give it a 3D effect? Yes, absolutely. And that's what we're going to show. So you can do either or in that case. If you wanted to, if you're happy with the results as it is.
Is that good, Jay?
You can add maybe a couple, 1 or 2 thin coats on top, and it'll really give it that 3D effect. Or you can even add an additional marbling layer on top of your first marbling layer. 2 or 3 or however you want to.
Perfect. All right, so this is an example, and we're going to do overhead, and then also we've got Dr. Phil there on the side. Perfect, that looks great. Now, I just did some kind of starburst look here, but I wanted to show you something. This is dry. So what we've got, and this is part of the example. I need to wipe that. Part of the example. This is 3 different layers, and you have black that's in here. And you notice the black is very, very true. It's very solid, okay? Oh, sorry, Jay, I was playing to Phil there. Thank you. All right, so the black is very solid. The blue is also very solid. And then the white is a very, very true white. The reason for this is all of these colors are put on in separate layers. So you can see where the white and the blue and the black all come together in here, and there's no like kind of, oh, it got a little sloppy or messy or whatever like that. So in theory, 3 colors, 3 layers, and I'm just going to show you really quickly. We'll add another one here, just to give you what it looks like when it goes on, because I promised you I would do that. So just as Hunter did, and a little bit different than the one I just did, I'm actually going to put finish on here.
Do a question real quick.
Yeah.
So we're getting, this is the second one I've seen. Does marbling affect the performance of a fly rod? So guys, really, as long as you're not doing a section of marbling that's, half the length of your rod or, 10 layers of epoxy deep, the marbling is not going to affect the performance to the point where you're going to notice a changeable difference.
Right.
As long as you keep it to maybe, 2-3 layers of epoxy max, even of high build, you're not going to notice any negative performance in your rod. So don't be afraid of that.
Yeah. Because most of the time, I mean, Hunter, you would say that most people are putting the marbling like in front of the foregrip a little bit. Maybe they're doing it a little in the split grip. Some things like that, right? I mean,
right, yeah. It's going to be in the section of your rod where, if you put this out towards the tip and did, a 10-inch section of marbling, then yeah, you're going to notice the difference.
That'd be something, huh?
Yeah, but in the butt section, in the split grip area, in front of your foregrip, you're not going to notice any difference in performance.
Yeah. All right. We'll do a little yellow again, just so that I can show like a real contrasting. We'll get red on me tonight, I can promise you.
Don't say it.
That's it.
Let's see, what else do we got? What about making a white thread wrap as a base layer? Yes, absolutely. So we use the pearl metallic, but a white thread base or white thread wrap as a base layer would be perfectly fine too.
Yep.
Seen several questions about glow-in-the-dark pigment.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
I don't think personally I've never played around with glow-in-the-dark pigment. I know it's out there, and I'm sure you could probably use it in your epoxy. But yeah, I just don't personally have much experience with it.
Yeah. Not a big glow-in-the-dark guy, huh?
Nah. I know it's kind of it's popular in the ice fishing world.
Sure.
So that could be kind of a cool thing.
Well, we're actually going walleye fishing here pretty soon.
Oh, walleye. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, bud. And we're actually going up to Wisconsin again, and with our favorite, everybody's favorite, Buzz Butters.
Buzz Butters.
And they mentioned we're going to be fishing at night. And I went, Huh. Fishing at night in November for walleye, huh?
That's
I asked him, I
very
said,
cold.
isn't the coldest part of the day and night the night? I don't know about that, but hey, you know, if that's when you got to catch them, I guess that's what we're going to do.
There you go.
You know? All right. So, what we're going to do is, can you mix liquid colors to make new colors? Yeah.
Of course.
Absolutely, Troy. You remember the, like, blue and yellow make green as a little kid kind of thing? You got it.
I've had it.
You can absolutely mix them up. That's why most of the marbling pigments are just primary colors.
Yeah, that's it. There's only, what, 6, 8 colors there?
Something like that. All right, so I'm going to drop in. Are we going to do, Jay, you want to run this document camera, or you want to run Uncle Phil's? All right, cool. We'll do this one. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little bit of yellow here right on this white. Just so you can see when I move these colors around that they do not bleed into each other because I did them on separate layers. And then we come around there.
That's a great point. If you guys want to keep colors separate from each other, definitely do it in multiple layers. Otherwise, there's a very, very good chance that they're going to blend together at some point somehow.
Now, one thing you'll notice, and I'll show you how to combat this, as you move the yellow around, and it happened in the white too, you'll notice you'll get a gap in the center there where now the white shows through. You can actually come back in when you have this little thread pick, and you can get some yellow on your thread pick. Now I'll stop it here when we come back around. See, there's a gap in that middle. You can actually fill that in now with yellow to kind of sharpen that color. Okay? Again here, I'm going to add a little yellow in the center. So what that does is that just makes sure that your yellow is just a really, really vibrant yellow. And just come back in with that. Okay? So then that's how you can come back in and get a sharper yellow. And you notice there's no running of colors, there's no mixing, there's no nothing, honestly. Because now we're 4 colors deep and we're 4 layers deep. And I left the silver metallic because this is I think it was an MB873. So MB873 and metallic silver, and there you go. So now, like I said, 4 colors, 4 layers, we're good. All right? So now we're going to move on to something else I'm going to show you here. And we're going to show you a trick plus a little bit of a like, don't do this because this is what happens, or do this if you want it to look like this. How did we have this thing where it was, did we turn it and then turn it?
Can't remember.
All right.
I was doing a question. We'll give it a shot.
Well,
you want
I
to
need
go?
to show this.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think what we would do, we got to pull this blank. We got to pull this blank off. Put this.
Get this over.
Yep.
Okay, move that back.
Yep.
That goes there. Sweet. There we go.
All right.
All right. Let's see. What else can we get here? Do the metallic colors blend together? Yes. Yes, they will. I think you're referencing once they're on the rod blank.
Mm-hmm. Or you can mix like,
or mix the powder together before you actually put them in the epoxy?
Yes. What you won't get, though, is you're not going to get, like you can mix a yellow and a blue, but it's not going to be the same. It's not going to give you the exact same effect as a liquid.
Right.
It's just not.
Yeah.
But yes, you can mix them together and do that. They will give you a different color and a different effect. It just won't be as sharp. All right. There's a couple things with this I want to show you real quick and talk about, and then I'm going to show you a little trick that I like to do. So if you notice, there's like real sharp-edged lines and stuff. I'm going to show you the technique to how to get that. A couple of the things I want to show you first, though, are these circles, okay? These circles have like really weird rings and like halos and such. Like here, this one is even like hollow in the center. I want to show you, and let's go back, Jay, let's go to Phil's camera really quick too, because this one here is like really good in the light. So this one out here is, you can see it has like a weird hole in it, and it kind of has like a weird halo. That one down over here kind of does the same thing. So the problem is that one does the same thing. This effect is what happens if you have epoxy and you take your little thread pick and you just dip it into the pigment and try to like dip it onto the epoxy. What's going to happen is the epoxy is wet and then you put a drop of pigment in it. The pigment is going to want to mix with the epoxy. So if you think, hey, I'm just going to put a drop of pigment onto wet epoxy and it's going to give me like a dot, like if you were to just take a Sharpie and put a dot, it's not going to do that because it's going to want to like permeate and mix into the epoxy. If you want a sharper dot and just leave it alone, like these out here, okay? You can do that, but you use the white pigment or you can use the powder pigment. And these dots are put over finish that is already dried. Because just as we all know, when you add finish to something, like when you add finish to a blank and you cut an edge, when you cut that sharp edge over here or over here, there's tension like there is with water. There's water tension or epoxy tension, and that epoxy is not going to like encroach over that edge if you cut it sharp. But when there's no tension, there's no edge inside of this epoxy, so if you just take pigment and touch it, it's going to want to work its way around and it's going to like permeate out, and then it's just going to turn into kind of a messy blah. I don't even know what else to say it. How you spell blah, I don't know, but there you go. So if you want something sharp, you're going to need to create white pigment in epoxy or regular white pigment with a dot on top of dried finished epoxy or on a rod blank. Now the cool thing about that is then you're just going to be adding layers, okay? So let's talk about how to get these strings in the finish. And if you notice, these strings are also done on separate layers, and I'm going to show you why here in a second. So what we're going to do is, I'm actually going to use that yellow again that I've tried to spill everywhere a couple times this evening. And I've got some finish here. I think it's still okay. Yep. So I've got finish that I used for that, and I'm going to take this yellow, and we're going to mix it. And I want a pretty hot yellow, so I'm going to add a good amount to it. Okay? And we're just going to mix it up. So you can see we got yellow. Yeah, you're going to hit a question while I mix this.
Steve from YouTube, are the palettes reusable? Steve is referencing these marbling palettes that we sell, and yes, they definitely are. Just make sure that you clean it after you use it, obviously, because if there is epoxy in the palette, it will set up, and it's going to be pretty tough to get out of there. So
yeah, I'd be curious too if you let it cure out, you might be able to
You
pop
it out. That's a good
yeah,
point.
But
You could.
The problem is there might be a little residue. You just clean it.
Yeah.
I would still clean it because I wouldn't want any like contamination from it.
Exactly. Yeah.
But probably if there was like enough, like if there was a big puddle of epoxy, you could probably snap it out of there.
Yeah.
But I don't know. If it doesn't work, complain to Hunter.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right. So I've got yellow mixed up, right? There we have it. Nice and yellow. We are going to take Flex Coat, Color Preserver, and Thread Sealer. All right?
Very, very, very important.
This one, okay, doesn't have to be this big a bottle, but it's got to be this one. We have tried it with a number of different kinds. It doesn't work. What's in this is what makes this trick work. So, yep, see, I knew I had some on my hand. I got it everywhere. This is fantastic. I got to fight with a clown. All right, so Flex Coat, Color Preserver, and Thread Sealer. All right. And I do not have an official, like, ratio. Probably have to turn that on. I don't want that to drip. All right. I thought I had left it on.
Gotcha.
All right, so I do not have an official ratio, but I'm going to hold it right here so you guys can see. Perfect. All right, so I'm just going to take and add about a little bit, okay? Again, I don't know what it is, but you'll know when it's right because what we're going to do is we're going to stir this now, and we're going to mix it, and it's going to start to get weird.
You definitely want to go under as opposed to over, because you can always add a little bit more as you go.
Can't
but
take it
you
out.
can't take it away.
Yeah. Now the good news is you don't use a lot. It's cheap. If you went too far and you got to like, you know, mix up a new batch, you just mix up a new batch. But, all right, so just with that little bit, you still on camera there? All right, this is what starts to happen. It's just getting weird, and it gets stringy, and yeah. So it went from finish to like gum. And now what we're going to do is we'll go here, and I'm going to apply this. Now keep in mind which way that this thing is going, because you want to make sure that when you're adding your finish that it doesn't like overlap unless you want it to overlap. I'm somebody that always wants it turning to me. Yep. So what we're going to do is we're going to pull this up and see how it's creating a very stringy consistency, right? And if you think you're going to like start to break it, you can like lower down, get closer to it. All right. So you can add that in. You can let that dry. Now remember, I didn't put any finish on there. So that's why it kind of has like a ribbed kind of effect to it. If I would have put it on the this other finish, I think I'm going to show you because it'll pull it. All right, we'll stop this. When I pull this blank out, just move this around.
Okay.
Follow me?
Yep. Gotcha.
Okay. Yep. Cool. I'm going to move this thing here. Whoa, 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 whoa. Sweet. All right. Sorry, because that's got to go on that.
Better?
Yep. Sweet. Is it still focused, Jay? Cool. All right. Of course, it's not coming to me. So. It still works. But you'll notice that it starts to set into the finish a little bit. Okay? And remember, if this gets real wild out here, this will happen. See all these strings that are coming out of here? It's hard to break them off. So if you notice, when I hold my cup of, now it's pretty much goo, when I hold this out here, I am outside of my working area, because this is just going to be something that we can cover with thread, wipe off, anything like that, and it's not going to affect any of this that's in here. So you can kind of see, so I'm going to start off of what I'm working with, come into it, put some sort of a design, and I can leave through the outside like that. Okay? So now again, this is what, and see, now it's really starting to get like super weird. But the cool thing is it'll dry clear, because it's all it is color preserver and thread sealer in there. But that's how you do the string effect. And it puts really sharp lines in it. This one out here on the outside, Phil, I would come back after this is cured and dried, and it's going to dry a little raised. I'm then going to come back and bring in another coat of finish over the top of that. And then this is going to add depth to it. It's going to be real sharp edged colors, because what's going to happen is, if you try to do the like string effect all in one level, you absolutely can. Just remember that if you have a string, of one color this direction, and if you drag another color over the top of it, you'll have an intersect point. But the tension from the other color coming across the top of it can like pull it a little. So then you'll get like maybe a little bit of a curvature in your bottom color when you came across the top of it, because the finish isn't dried and it can still kind of morph and change. Yeah. Perfect if that's what you want. Really bad if that's not what you want. So I'm trying to give you guys a little bit of like, okay, I want these very, very defined effect out of my marbling. How do I go about like, screwing that up? So those are just kind of a little bit of, heads ups, if you will. So
cool. Yeah. Let's do another giveaway. What do you say?
Let's do it.
Cool. So second place prize tonight is going to be a CRB professional marbling kit. And the winner from YouTube is Mr. Brandon Duffett. Brandon Duffett, congratulations. CRB professional marbling kit.
Cool.
All right, so got the grand prize later on. Not too far away.
Not too far away.
Cool.
All right. What else we got?
Let's do.
Got a few questions up
yeah,
there?
let's knock out some questions and we'll get into the last portion of the show.
Yeah, I just want to show a little bit of this purple and black. So go ahead and do that.
What we got there, guys? Can we get some questions up there, please?
All right, I think that looks good. I want to mix a little more.
Okay, what do we got? What do we got? Paul from Wisconsin wants to know, where are you walleye fishing in November?
We are going to be on the Fox River,
Okay.
close to the Bay of Green Bay. We're actually staying we'll be able to see Lambeau.
Wow.
So we're in a really cool place down by Lambeau, which you might have heard of it. And we're staying like right there at it, pretty much. So that's going to be pretty cool. There's a dam on the river, and I think the town is like Des Pierre or something that's like close to Green Bay, but that's where we're fishing.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Steve, is there a chart for mixing the primary colors and making secondary colors? No, we don't have a chart, but
Do we? Do we have a chart?
do we have a chart?
Jay? Is there a chart in that? Yeah, like a color chart in the marbling kit. No, I thought we talked about that. I don't know. I could be wrong. I could be
I'm
wrong.
not sure. Well,
Anyway.
if there is not,
Yeah.
you can definitely just Google it. And
Yeah, there is like your basic color wheel kind of thing.
Yeah.
But I feel like, I don't know. We'll get back to you on that. We will get back to you. I'm sorry that I don't know that question. And maybe you know it, and I'm the one that's like, maybe. I don't know.
Could go either way.
Yeah, right?
I do see a question. Hey, have you ever tried this with browns to make wood grain? No. That question was from Jeremy from YouTube.
You absolutely could.
Yeah, definitely. That's a really cool idea. Have not tried it personally. No.
No, but this, what I have on the rod here, I've got it in purple and black. And I got to tell you, this would be about as close to wood grain as you could get. I mean, granted, I like swirled it just a little too much. If you kept it, along the same like direction like a wood grain, that would probably be pretty wood grainy.
Another question out of YouTube from Artful Wood Creations. What is the cure time for this epoxy? So we're using a high build epoxy, which does have a faster cure time. I would say full cure time of probably, gosh, I don't know, 10, 12 hours. Like
Yeah,
full
the high
cure.
build, right, the high build, yeah.
Now, if you wanted to put a layer of finish down or a base coat, whatever you want to call it, base layer, and let that cure for 4 to 5, 6 hours, you can go back in. It still may be a little tacky, but you can still go back in and add another layer add your first layer of marbling, or whatever you wanted to. It does not have to be fully cured at that point. So.
For sure.
Another question from YouTube. What do you guys recommend I paint my whole blank with? So if you're going to paint your entire blank, you want to... Oh, perfect.
I knew it.
So there is...
Maybe I'll win something tonight.
So there is a color chart that comes with the marbling pigment kit, and it does give...
It's a color wheel.
Yeah, it's just a basic color wheel that will give you primary colors to secondary colors. Look at that. Good job.
Tips for marbling pigments.
Yep, there you go. Got the color wheel, all that good stuff.
Telling you, Hunter, you think of everything, buddy.
Yeah, that one wasn't me, but...
Come on, I'm trying to give you some credit.
Anyway, what was that last question? Paint your entire rod blank. If you do, you want to be sure to use a paint that has a flex agent. I'm pretty sure most automotive paints, is that correct? Most automotive paints
can add to it for sure.
And then, if not, you can always add a flex agent to whatever paint you're using. But be sure it has a flex agent, otherwise it will probably crack over time. And,
probably is right.
Yeah, definitely crack over time. All right, I'll do one more.
Yeah, well, I'm going to show the powder just a little bit.
Let's see. Brian actually has 2 questions here. Have you done multiple coats to give more of a 3D look? Yes, absolutely, Brian, you can do that. And then do the colors continue to spread / mix while the epoxy is drying? Not necessarily, no. Now, if you go in and add excessive heat with the alcohol burner, it will make those colors run and sometimes run together. But once your epoxy, especially with high build, after probably 30 minutes or so, 30, 45 minutes, that epoxy is set enough, it's tacky enough to where those colors are not going to incorporate or run together at all. So once you've hit that point and it continues to spin on your rod dryer, you don't have any problems with the colors mixing together.
Well, and that, that was like we had discussed about why I do it in layers, because that, that being the question, it was just like, yeah, to me, it makes it so much easier.
Question, can you use the liquid pigment and add metal flakes in it? Yeah, definitely. Just be, whether it's the flakes or the glitter, just be careful and don't overdo it, especially with the glitter. The glitter, a little bit goes a long, long way, so.
I'm telling you, I'm trying to dump that yellow over tonight.
All right, I think we're pretty well caught up.
All right, cool. What are we looking at? Oh, 7:53. All right, bear with us, almost. I just want to show you a little bit of heat and color manipulating. So speaking of time,
Yeah,
we got a big game tonight.
huge game.
Sounds like you're a fan.
I'm a huge Braves fan. I know you are as well. Not huge, but definitely a Braves fan. So
I mean, come on, when you grow up, I mean, I grew up in Florida,
yeah,
and we had TBS, which was the Braves, and we had WGN, which was the Cubs. And I was a big Mark Grace fan for the Cubs back in the day. Ryan Sandberg and all those guys. And then, of course, big Braves guy.
yeah.
So we, being from North Florida and having Chipper playing with the Braves, things like that. You were just,
Just had to love them.
that was it. There was just really no reason to not be a Braves fan where we were from.
Yeah.
So,
So hopefully we can pull it out tonight.
telling you.
We'll see.
Yeah. What is his first pitch? Like what, 8:10 or something? 8:09?
8:06, 8:09, yeah,
Okay.
some weird like that.
All right.
So yeah, you got about 5 minutes.
Perfect. I'll get you guys out of here. All right, so I'm going to add a little bit of finish. We're going to do this. We're going to throw some heat on there, and we're going to get out of here. This needs to come down. All right, so this on the camera is two very contrasting colors. Two colors, black and purple. Yeah, good job, Chris. Look at me. It's like, hey, you should have chose something that shows up on camera. Well, I'm getting ready to. So black and purple here. It gives more of like a really neat kind of a swirl, per se, because the black and the purple do a very good job of like not coming together completely and just turning into just mud, but they do a pretty good job of contrasting, and I think they look really cool. So we're going to slide over here, just in case we want to use this guy. And I'm going to throw some finish down here real quick. And we'll do a couple colors. We'll do home team colors here at Mudhole.
I really like the silver metallic choice as the background. Anything that's really, whether it's the purple and black or even the blues and yellows that you used earlier, it has a slight hint. You can see it come through the silver underneath, but it's just real subtle. Great choice.
Yeah, it really is. It's just like you almost don't notice it a lot, but you're just like, wow, it does seem extra little metallic-y or something. But appreciate it.
Yeah.
Every now and then we get lucky and do something right. Boy, we have made a mess. Didn't run out of fuel, did we? Stand by. So this one probably would be a good candidate for not using high build. because we're going to move this around a little bit more, but in theory, the high build is just, to me, is just really good to use, honestly. So. All right, so we're gonna, like Hunter was doing earlier, very, very specific in what he's.
Just huge globs on there.
Yeah, right?
So you're doing the candy cane technique.
Well, I'm just laying something down here, and then we're gonna. Like I said, we're gonna try to do home team colors. I haven't put these together, but I want to see what they do. Sure, I'll probably look up and have it just completely wiped on my face. I want to show this too because the earlier question, talking about colors, the pigments coming together, you can see that there is a little bit of green peeking through here. All right. This is where things get wild, right?
The fun part.
Yeah, I know. I'm gonna try to get it to like warp without doing anything crazy. Now remember, it will warp, and you can do like one end first and let it kind of do its thing. And it also will depend on how much finish you put on how much it wants to move. There we go. See, this one's starting to, see that one's starting to slide there? Because what's going to happen is when I put it in, that one there is starting to,
Yep.
see one's starting to turn? So what happens is I put it in at an angle like this. And when I put it in at an angle, when the pigment moves, it actually, so it'll go from being straight like this. Then when the pigment moves, it will move in like a U shape. And then one will kind of incorporate itself into the next, right? I don't know why. There we go. I keep doing that. Just grab the chuck. And the cool thing about when you do get a couple primary colors, and they do, you see they start to fade into a green, it makes a little bit of a better fade because not only do they mix and like fade, but they're creating another color in the meantime, right? And this one's starting to kind of warp there and go the other direction. Now, I don't know if you noticed, but I changed directions of the dryer. And depending on the direction of the dryer, you can change how this folds into itself, okay? So you can see that kind of starts to get a little Now, I personally like the way that this looks, but if you want to come in here and mess it up, you can come in here and mess it up. So this direction here, you can see it's got a hoop going this direction, right? So that is the yellow coming into the blue there. And then over here, it's going the other direction. The yellow is moving up this direction into the blue. And all of that has to do, the way I did that is just by changing the direction of the dryer. Okay? So adding a little heat, moving it around a little bit, the way you lay the colors down, final little thought is change the direction on the dryer. Add a little heat, change the direction on the dryer, and you can get it to like morph a different direction. So
Pretty cool.
I guess.
Yeah.
You know, it's
It's cool that you did mention that there's a little bit of green, but honestly, they didn't blend enough together to change colors.
right. Yeah, you're
Just
not just
slightly.
you don't just go, cool, we have all green. Sweet.
Yeah, right.
So that's fantastic. But there is, and you can pick it up a little bit in the camera. There is like just enough like tinges of green that it's like, oh, okay, yeah, that actually works pretty good, you know. But it's not like taking blue and yellow pigment and actually making green.
Yeah.
So, but you can see the difference on these two edges. Excuse me. This edge down here, you can see it's coming around now. The U shape is different on this side where the yellow pushed into the blue, created a different shape U. And this one here coming around down on this end, you can see the U kind of, you know, you can change the direction of it a little bit just by changing the direction of the dryer. Yeah, it's kind of cool. You know? So there it is. That is how to make a mess on your grandma's dining room table. 101 for episode 81. Thank you very much.
Yep.
All right. Make sure that let's see. Rich said, can you just marble over a blank or do you need a colored base? And if you can marble over the original blank color, should you put a layer of epoxy down and let it dry first? Rich, I think we touched on both of those throughout the show. And I don't know when that question came in, so apologize, I don't have a timestamp there, but if you did ask it at the beginning of the show, hopefully we answered that. If not, the guys, Phil and Jay, go back and they timestamp everything. So if you're watching this in a rerun, you can go back and pinpoint those things. But to answer that question, you can do both. It will give you a little bit of a different effect because when you lay epoxy down first, and then you add some color, you can kind of morph it. But if you lay a color down, let it dry, come back in, adjust it, you'll get a little bit sharper lines. So hopefully that answered as we went through all of this. Cool. You answered the liquid and add metal flakes. Can you marble cork handles? Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. If we could have, you know, put a stapler on this rod dryer and got it turning, we could have marbled a stapler. So what would your suggestion be for a super sensitive rod for smallmouth? Jig, shaky head typically, casting or spinning. You want to do a little you go, I go?
Sure.
Go ahead.
I would, okay. I would do the, I'd probably go Elite X and go with the NSJ 842.
Perfect.
Can't go wrong.
You cannot go wrong. I'm going to do something different. I like the NSJ 871.
Ooh, nice.
Because for shaky head and a jig, and even the feather jig, even like the little marabou, kind of looks like a bigger version of like a crappie jig.
Yeah.
I like a little extra length because you're using like 6-pound test. You can really get out there with the 87-inch blank. It's a 1 power, super sensitive. You can really like 6-pound test, kind of feel it.
Yeah.
And then you don't need the shorter, like kind of drop shot style blank.
Yeah.
Throw in the shaky head, using a jig, you're probably going to cast it.
Open water,
Open
perfect
water.
blank.
Yeah. So, but I am not arguing with the NSJ 842. I'm just going to use the NSJ 871 while you're using the 842.
There you go.
Let's see. Can I use my Pro Tech powder paint to tint my epoxy for marbling? You know, I'm gonna test it. Like, I would test it because I don't see why not. It should mix up well. I would think it would. I mean, I've never mixed it, but I would think it would mix up well. It's cool because there are some flat colors, there are some metallic colors. All you can do is just mix it up there. I think that was Jeffrey. Just mix it up and give it a whirl, because I'm with you though. I'm thinking, I'm picking up what you're putting down. I would do the same thing, because ProTech also has glow in the dark powder.
They do.
And they have like some different hot colors and things like that. Will this work with powdered or just liquid pigments, the stringy stuff? Doug, it works with any of it, because what makes it work is the epoxy and the flex coat color preserver stuff. So it does not have to be liquid pigment. I just chose the liquid pigment because that yellow is extremely vibrant, and I knew it would stand out against the silver and the blue and the black. But yes, you can absolutely take powdered pigment, put it in there, and good. So we're at 8:09.
Yep.
You need to give this away.
Let's do it.
Because I think I can hear a first pitch coming.
I think so.
We're going to do a CRB Color Series Rod Kit and Professional Marbling Kit. Hunter, who's got?
That's a good one. All right, so let's do from Facebook.
Yep.
Steve, I'm going to go with Steve Kale.
That's what I would have gone with.
Kahle. Steve, I hope that's right. I apologize if it's wrong.
Perfect.
But congratulations, you got a great prize coming your way.
Color Series Rod Kit and Professional Marbling Kit. Fantastic. Well, I think we can say we can get out of here. We can eat some Hot Pockets, some Bagel Bites, watch a little World Series. Thank you, everybody, so much. Don't leave.
But
because we have a pre-Black Friday sale that starts now. Since you guys stuck around, shop, watch the World Series, pre-Black Friday sale, 15% off on orders $150 or more. Use code 15PBF21, and you can go over to mudhole.com/pre-Black Friday. And of course, we've got, save up to 75% on select rod building tools and equipment. There's a few things in there that are really, really good.
Yeah.
Never, ever, ever leave the website without checking that clearance bin. Trust me, new stuff goes in there all the time, and it's pretty good stuff, no doubt. So remember, the pre-Black Friday sale starts now, and y'all are the first ones to know about it. So run over there and save that 15% off on orders of $150 or more, and use that code 15PBF21, because that stands for 15% off pre-Black Friday in the years 2021. We got to make it easy for us. It's not easy for y'all. It's easy for us to say it.
Yeah.
So, yeah. We
got some of the equipment just to name off real quick. So we got the CRB drying tent. There's the 5-piece thread tool kit in there. There's, I believe, 50% off epoxy mixer. The deluxe handle clamps on sale. The wire chuck upgrades on sale.
Sweet.
Lots of good stuff in there. So definitely check that out.
Yeah. I hear the Rod Builders Group hit another milestone. 17,000 people.
17,000, yeah.
17,000. I think it's like 17,193 or something like that. I don't know. But if you're not in the Rod Builders Workshop, just go do it. Go do it, because it's great. And of course, we showed you a ton of different products on the show tonight. The guys behind the scenes worked very hard to make sure to bring this to you on the website. It is mudhole.com/MHL. So that's the website with /MHL on there. That's for all the tools and supplies on the show tonight. It makes your shopping easy. So go there first, put your stuff in the cart, then you're going to start building up to that $150 bag, and get that 50% off with that code. And the next show is going to come to you the week of Thanksgiving.
Mm-hmm.
We'll be here on the 23rd. I think we're going to be doing some ultralight stuff. You know, it's that time of year here in Florida. We start crappie fishing a little bit. If you guys want to see something in particular on that show, maybe it's a handle setup. We're going to show you a little bit of that stuff. We're going to talk about guides. We're going to do hey, this is how you build your crappie rod. Go catch them and release them in the grease. So it's really, really cool. And again, we had the team around us tonight. I know Brooke and Steve were in the war room. The Birdman was here. I know Taylor was putting it down on social media, answering questions. As always, we had Jay and Uncle Phil behind the scenes on the ones and twos in the Zoom cam. Of course, my left-hand man, Hunter McCamey. I'm Chris Adams. Go Braves. Shop that Black Friday sale, and we'll see y'all in a few weeks. Have a great night.
Thanks for watching.
See ya.